Good morning, Albert JTV community. Most important, Arsenal community. Match review time. Arsenal 4, Leicester 2. Special guest in town. But before we get into it, let's smash the intro. And I can see the logic behind the signing, even though some Arsenal fans.
We actually worked a good passage of play.
Arsenal and footballing community. Like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Albert JTV. Good morning once again, people. Albert JTV for the breakfast show with the amazing Gooner Talk TV. But people, I'd like to get the obligatories out the way. Can you absolutely obliterate the like button and share on all platforms? We're going live on Facebook, on YouTube, and the platform that's formerly Twitter, now called X. But yeah, I've got a special guest with me. His second solo appearance on the show. And is actually, let me be even more clear to people, it's his hat-trick appearance on Albert JTV. Welcome, people. Tom Canton, the Good Talk TV. Tom, a pleasure as always. Thank you for coming on.
How you doing, man? You good, you well?
Not bad, Tom. Now, I did tell you off before we went live because the last time you came on the channel, you wasn't feeling well. And I said to you, I will make exceptions to you. If you're not well, don't come on. But you've soldiered through. And you've done it to me again this time because you don't feel 100%.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I got to crack on with the day, mate. I just got to crack on with the day. So, you know, I don't mind. It's all good.
And Tom, I've decided I've got a new hashtag for you as well.
I'm
going to bring it on the screen.
Oh, no. Yeah.
People, if you're not aware, yeah, there you go. The man with the 8 a.m. mic, Tom Canton. So, Tom, that's your new hashtag, mate. So, Tom, yes, I managed to get to the game yesterday. Got my ticket late on Friday. You pay probably a little bit more money than I actually wanted to, but sometimes that's the price you pay. Because people said I sat in the posh seats. You could call it that at club level. So you have to pay a little bit more. But my word, it was a game worth going to. So, Tom, I want to start off really with. Actually, I want to start off something. I'll start off a bit differently, actually, before we sort of go into the game. Obviously, as an Arsenal fan as you are, Tom, and working obviously in a journalistic point of view, I want to talk about Arsenal sort of in the last 2 or 3 seasons till us doing this podcast live now, and I'm trying to find the right word or words I can use before for a breakfast show to talk about Arsenal. What have you made of the scrutiny that Arsenal have been getting from probably ex-players and maybe even from a journalistic point of view? What have you made of it?
I think that it's entirely unsurprising, to be honest, because I think that with Arsenal, we always seem to be the butt of the joke for many. We always seem to be the target. We always seem to be a team that are treated slightly differently and spoken about differently. It's just a reputation that we've got. You know, as George Graham said, you know, it's fashionable to bash Arsenal, and it always has been. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by the scrutiny Arsenal have got. It's just very normal, and we try and use it as best we can as ammunition to kind of go forwards.
No, well, Tom, well said. Fantastic answer. I'll be honest with you, with myself. And you make a good reference point in terms of the George Graham clip that's been shared various times over the years, and I think it's shared sometimes specifically at the right time with the way Arsenal the trajectory we're going in the last few years. I'll be honest, it has surprised me a little bit. Maybe it's because in terms of sort of the YouTube side of it and the content creating side of it, where it's almost gone off the Richter scale. Because even sometimes I'm watching content and consuming, I'm thinking, I didn't really expect it to turn out like this. You know, because essentially we are challenging to win trophies, which is what most top clubs want to do. So I don't know why we're kind of a little bit different, but you know what? Let the tears keep strolling down people's faces. I'm here for it, and I will endorse it even more. But Tom, let's get into the thick and fast of it, because I haven't got you for long, and I want you to get better soon as well. So yesterday's game. So Tom, I must say this in terms of the lineup. I did a watch along for the Man City game, and some Arsenal fans were, how can I put this in terms of Calafiore starting? I was delighted he started last week, to be honest with you, and I was even glad to get to see him in the flesh. He's a big lad, by the way. But I still want to talk to you about our fullbacks starting this a bit differently in terms of Timber and Calafiore. Obviously, you do your research, do your homework, but I think for me, watching that game, particularly in the first half, Tom, we've got two flipping good fullbacks at Arsenal. I'm trying to find the right words, not get too thing, but what have you sort of what did you make of sort of what have you made of sort of, obviously we brought them in, but the impacts and the changes you've seen with these two in the team?
I think that if anything, it makes me slightly frustrated of how much we missed Timber last year, and that we were kind of had that stolen away from us last season. Because when you consider the difference in us and Man City was just down to 2 points, I genuinely think the presence of Timber could have been the difference between us and City last year, had he have been available. So that's the initial frustration. But moving away from that and looking forwards, I think we've brought in a player that is going to help again us kind of reach new levels in that position. And I think that I absolutely love Ben White, and I think Ben White will continue to be a really important figure in this team. But what I do think is that ultimately, if you look at the way that Timber delivers crosses, the way in which he overlaps Saka, the cross he provided for Martinelli, these are different types of options that he provides to Arteta and to this team. And just the technical ability, like he was taking players on at ease, he was nutmegging players, he was pulling off these little bits of skill, and I love to see that. Absolutely love to see that. And then I think if you look at Calafiore, he's a lot more chaotic as a player. He's not the same type of player as what Timber is. He certainly provides, I think, something else different to what Kivior and Zinchenko and Tomiyasu had, and that's obviously that presence in the final third on that left-hand side. But so does Timber, and Timber can play on either flank. And it just goes to show, the recruitment drive of this team that continues to improve year on year, and shows that we're just continuing to make these right decisions that are pushing us into very exciting places.
Yeah, great stuff, Tom. Do you think it was a bit of a coincidence? I've mentioned this before in terms of which lead me to segue in terms of talking about Martinelli, is that obviously getting Timber back this season and obviously bringing in Calafiore, I was hoping, fingers crossed, Tom, that it would improve and help Martinelli. Now, when I say that, I'm talking purely in isolation of yesterday's game. Let me make that very, very clear. So you saw Martinelli got a lot of the ball. Do you think that's a coincidence that Calafiore is in the team? Because you have a fullback. Yes, he can invert, Tom, but he can also provide the width and go on the outside. So you saw Martinelli get a lot of the ball, which was quite beneficial for us. Do you agree, or how did you see it?
Yeah, I think, having a naturally left-footed player on the left, it does help Martinelli to a degree, because the passing's a lot easier for him to receive the ball. And Calafiore likes to be more in the final third as well, compared perhaps slightly on the left-hand side when Timber's there, who maybe plays more a defensive style when he's on the left-hand side. But I think that Martinelli, it's more about his confidence than anything tactical. I think that as soon as he got that goal, it was like a huge weight had just lifted off his shoulders. And he could play with a freedom again that he'd not necessarily had been delivering in the last few months, because I think prior to his assist against Man City last weekend, he'd gone something like 17, 18 games without a goal or an assist. Ooh. So that's quite the run. I remember when Gabriel Jesus hadn't scored in something like 12 games, and there was a lot of pressure on him and a lot of scrutiny on him. But to see, of course, Martinelli score and get kind of that relief, I think definitely released him. And, I think that showed in the setup for Trossard and some of the other chances he had in the game too.
Yeah, you make a good point about Martinelli, actually, because he obviously had the chance before he scored. Now, the only thing I would say, obviously, watching it at real time and when I watched it back when I got home, is the pass from Saka was just a little bit, he had to kind of wait for it, which didn't really help. And then his first touch was okay, but then for me, you still got to hit the target. But you make a great point. Like that, for confidence-wise, that goal was massive for him. But I must say quickly about Calafiore, Tom. I tell you what, man. You might have noticed this, or people watching this live, or when they watch this back. There are a couple of times I noticed him he was having conversations with Declan Rice and in particular Thomas Partey to move the ball just a bit quicker. We don't need to recycle it every single time. And I thought that's a good thing to spot. Yes, he's a new player to the team, but we paid a lot of money for him. But I'd like to see that, Tom. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I think that again, it comes back to confidence again. Always, like it's just that drive and also I think there's as the team as a whole as well. When you're thinking about what happened against Man City, Arsenal were either going to go one of two ways. They were either going to like fold and it was going to affect them, and we nearly did in some ways. The way in which the game went, of course. But I think there was a level of adversity, a level of, we want to respond. We've scored 9 goals in 2 games now off the back of being criticised for not being attacking enough. So that in itself is a big deliverance of what expectations there are. So, yeah, but I think individually, when you go back to your question, it is purely around the confidence side of things. And the more that the players continue to deliver, I think the more it will come more naturally to them.
Yeah, no, well said. Tom, quickly with Timber, he's obviously been getting a lot of flowers, and rightly so, by the way. But I kind of said it, and I clipped it actually when I put it on my channel after we played Villa away. And I said, if you concentrate, when you bring defenders in, obviously your initial thing is they got to know how to defend. And if you look at him just purely from where he positions himself when we're on the defensive sort of side of it, and where he's not last-ditch tackles, but if you look at him from a defensive point of view and where he covers positions, he's excellent. And I saw that even early in the Villa game away. So obviously the Tottenham away and the overlap, obviously, for the first goal was brilliant from Martinelli. But yeah, I just wanted to give Timber his flowers. But Tom, sort of talking about the game yesterday, sort of the first half, really. And I thought about this more when I got home yesterday in terms of what Arsenal could have done better or what they might have done wrong. But I kind of thought that more so after the game. But the first half was probably the most one-sided game I've seen for a long time at the Emirates. So it would have been very difficult to pick any holes, particularly in the first half performance. But what is it that pleased you the most in terms of Arsenal performance in the first half?
I think obviously the dominance was key. Leicester came to just kind of hit Arsenal on the break, and you felt as though every time they did sort of threaten to get out, Arsenal very quickly nipped those attacks in the bud quite quickly, and then were good in the press. That was one of the biggest things I was worried about when we lost Martin Odegaard, was if we'd lose something in the press, because he's so good at that running element of his game. But I don't think we necessarily have done, especially not yesterday, at least. I thought the press was exceptional in the first half, and it felt very comfortable and just a matter of time until we got the goal. And I think that from the point of view of the team, when we got that goal, it wasn't like a case of sometimes we've seen Arsenal get the goal and, it's then gone a little bit more quiet, and then the other team have had a period of dominance. It was just continued, pressure and continued dominance until they got the next one just before the halftime whistle as well, which I think was important to get that goal then at the time. But then, of course, we didn't start the second half too well, and the rest is history.
Yeah, in terms of our creating chances, because that I saw Mr. Simu's tweet. That wasn't the issue. The chance yesterday, because we had quite a lot. If you combine it,
shots.
Yeah. I'm gonna swing that on the screen for the people watch on YouTube in particular. Audio listeners, you're just gonna have to imagine that you can see it. But Tom just said it anyways. It does make a difference. But I think the only concern for me going forward in sort of our recent games, and not so much yesterday, is I don't know how you felt. This is how I felt when I was watching it, and it was a slight sort of thing that I was looking at. I think particularly when we get into the final third, get it, trying to move the opposition defenders from side to side and find spaces, but that's where we miss Odegaard, because it's just that pass you can play into the front man or just something around the corner. I did notice that yesterday in the first half. I know we were dominant, I know, but I'm picking for a reason, because we're missing our captain. So is that fair? Is that a fair comment to make, Tom, or do you look at it a different way?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think that our weaknesses in general are a lot more mental than ability-wise. And I still think, obviously, because we've not won the league yet, and we've had 2 real torrid seasons in terms of the effort we've put in and it not being rewarded with any silverware, that does take a mental strain. I've got an interview coming out later on today on FL with Declan, and he says some really interesting things, actually, which I can't talk about because there's an embargo behind it. But like, there's some really interesting things alluding to like how the players are feeling around the number of games that they're playing. So look out for that later. But I think that there's some really interesting kind of thoughts around like the fatigue wise and the mental barriers and obstacles and pressures that the team are under. But I don't know about you, like I felt as though when we got into kind of the last minutes of the game, I said it on this morning show, that I didn't feel nervous. I wasn't even that worried. I had like a confidence that I didn't have when we were obviously going into added time against Man United and added time against Bournemouth as well, where we've scored late goals, or Brentford even, as well, away from home. I had a confidence that it just felt like we were going to score. I didn't have that same concern as I have done before, and that I think shows that there is a change of feeling about this team, that the goals are going to come and the inevitability will be there that we will win. And even though we conceded late against Man City to drop those 2 points in the end, I still think that has served Arsenal in a way, maybe even more valuably than getting the 3 points there, because it grounds you a bit more and it gives you that mental kind of, kick in the backside that sometimes you need.
Yeah, I was sitting there. We got the first goal. I think was it on 20 minutes, Tom? And I thought to myself, watching it, I thought, how are we only going to go in at halftime 1-0 up? I said, we've got to get that second goal before the break, and we did. And obviously, I call him Leandro, the boss Trossard, Tom. Yeah, another. His finishing ability. I mean, he could have scored quadruple goals yesterday, to be honest with you. He had quite a few chances, but his finishing ability is just it's insane. Love him for that. But yeah, we saw with the first half 2-0. Like I said, there's not a lot I could have looked at and thought in the first half. Arsenal could have done that a bit better, only in probably scoring more goals. Because we dominated from wide areas. We dominated possession. Yes, at times we, the killer pass that we're missing our main man. But listen, we've got other ways. We have to find other ways to create opportunities. And then Tom comes the second half. I'll tell you, Arsenal, it's they don't know I've put you through it, man. So obviously we started the game in the second half, and it was a nothing ball, really. I mean, they won a free kick. Obviously, Jamie Vardy was Lieber fouling. And when I saw it at the time, I thought, how's David Raya got beaten from there? And I thought, I've got to watch the goal. When I got on, I watched it. It took a big deflection off of Kai Havertz, and it's 2-1. I couldn't believe it, Tom. Like in a few minutes to the second half, I thought this typical football, but it just goes to show, Tom, goals change games. And I don't know how you felt, but I thought for like a 10-15 minute period, they got a little bit more confident. I thought they was bypassing our midfield a little bit too easy, if I'm going to be honest, essentially, leaving gaping gaps. And you could feel turn in the stadium. I know we had a chance to make it 3-1 before they made it 2-2. But how did you sort of see it? Like that just came from nowhere for me.
Yeah, it did. Look, Justin's goal was excellently taken. It was kind of like the XG on that chance would have been very low, and he managed to put it away expertly. And obviously, we were quite unlucky with the deflection of Havertz that took the ball away from Raya from their first goal. So there is an element of just kind of bad luck in both of those scenarios. But we did ultimately, allow them to get into those positions. And we should have been more alert. We should have been more aggressive in the start of the second half. We should have come out with more of an urgency than we did. It didn't matter in the end, obviously, but we could be having a very different conversation this morning had that deflection from Trossard shot from the corner not gone in. So you have to kind of look at it in some ways on that. It will be a concern that we conceded those 2 goals, but I don't think they're 2 goals where I look at and go, oh, this happens every week. This is too many times. This is going down. This is a rarity. Like I don't look at the goals we conceded today and think, oh, well, that's going to happen next week or the week after and the week after, because we've already seen it happen on numerous occasions. Like the goals that we've conceded this season, you think about it, Man City's goal that they scored against us came obviously from that just poor defending, good bit of flick by Savinho, and then through to Haaland, who finished well. Yes, City did score from kind of a quick corner, but again, it's kind of like a pinball in the box, then falls at John Stones' feet. And beyond that, like, I'm not thinking back, and I'm not seeing kind of results that stand out to me. Of like the Bolton goal was obviously from a counter attack. Brighton's goal again comes from a pass through a gap between Saliba and Gabriel when we're down to 10 men. And other than that, we've not conceded any other goals. You know, prior to this game, we'd only conceded, you know, the 4 goals out of the first 5 games, and 2 of them came at Manchester City. So I'm not looking at it in too much of a concern or thinking that this is a trend that we need to be worried about. So, yeah.
No, well said. Because, I mean, you touched on it earlier in terms of, I think what was so surprised for Arsenal fans is obviously sitting there watching the game yesterday. And however, whatever means you watch the game, Arsenal fans, I'm not going to go into too much detail how you might have watched the game yesterday. But listen, that's another conversation. But Tom, you alluded to it in terms of statistical point of view. So, yeah, Arsenal 36 shots, 5 on target, 36 shots, 16 on target, 10 off target, 10 block shots, and we're going to advance even more to it. 75% possession, 17 corners. We are turning into the set piece kings, but that's a good facet to have. Listen, you can't always just open up teams and willy-nilly smash them 3 and 4-0. Because I was talking to a guy yesterday, sort of next to me, and I was saying, yes, we're at home and we're playing against a newly promoted side, but Leicester have within their ranks, they have a lot of Premier League experience, Tom, like James Justin, you got Wout Fash, you have Jamie Vardy, you got Wilfred Ndidi. So they weren't exactly going to roll over for us, to be honest, yesterday. So, but no, from a statistical point of view, from what you saw from the eye test, Arsenal were completely dominant. But obviously, you know, you got to play the game of football. And a wonder goal from James Justin. It's an unbelievable strike. I couldn't believe it when it went in. Tom, is he frozen? I don't know if he's frozen.
No, I'm not frozen. I'm just listening to you.
Tom, I've never seen you stay so still. I was like, is he gone? I wasn't sure. But audio listeners, there's no panic. I thought Tom had done a still shot. He just wouldn't move, and I was a bit worried. But no, amazing goal from James Justin. I couldn't believe it, Tom. It was an unbelievable strike. And then the stadium's thinking, oh, no, not Villa again last season. But listen, Arsenal created a whole load of chances. I think probably the Leicester goalkeeper deserves a pay rise. The save from Gabriel's header. The save from Kai Havertz. Unbelievable save. The Trossard chance as well. But Tom, we had 7 minutes injury time. We believed as Arsenal fans that we had to get the win, because obviously we saw the result at St. James's Park earlier, if that's what the stadium is still called. But yeah, and it's almost a thing for me where whatever slip up, if you want to class it as a slip up, whatever City do have, Arsenal have to be ready to pounce and take advantage. And obviously being 2-0 up, and then getting pegged back to 2-2, you know, we're peppering their goal. But listen, I want to talk about one guy, Tom, quickly. There's 2 guys. There's quite a few guys, but one main guy. Nwaneri, when he came on, he's box office from what I've seen in the pre-season tour. The cameo minutes he has had already. But Tom, even when he came on yesterday, he lit up the Emirates yesterday. What was your thoughts, man?
Yeah, very impressive. I think that when you see a player come off the bench who's 17 years of age, there is sometimes what you'll see is a performance where he'll receive a pass and he'll pass it back to the player that he got passed to from.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to do anything wrong, which is completely understandable. They want to play it safe. They want to make sure they're not making any mistakes. They don't want to be a cause of, a reason why we drop points. But there was nothing safe about what Nwaneri did when he came off the bench. He was direct. He was instantaneously creating a shooting opportunity for himself by taking players on. And Leicester didn't really know how to deal with his movement and his confidence and kind of the low centre of gravity that allows him kind of this ability to kind of skip through players that we have not seen really since Bukayo Saka burst onto the scene, as well. So The fact he's left-footed is also a big plus because it means he can cut inside and create these opportunities for himself. But yeah, it's very exciting to see what he's going to be able to produce. It's going to be exciting to see if he gets a starting opportunity in any of the upcoming games as well. I think that he will, of course, get some substitute appearances against maybe PSG on Tuesday. And who knows whether he's going to start against Southampton. But I think he's made a very strong claim that he deserves to be given that Premier League opportunity to start games.
Well said, Tom. Tom, with his style of play stylistically, what you've seen of him, and obviously his little cameo appearance, who does he kind of? If you think of players around in Europe, who would you say he's kind of similar to in terms of the type of areas?
I think the way in which he can play in a wide area and he can play in the middle, but with that low centre of gravity, I look at someone like Bernardo Silva potentially as being kind of that little figure. I guess there could be some comparisons to Phil Foden as well that some people might make. But I just think that there is... I'm never a big fan of kind of doing the whole comparison thing because I like players like forging their own, their own pathways, if you like.
Yeah, cool.
But I think when you're looking stylistically at like the smaller, more diminutive technical players that can play internally and externally, I think Silva's maybe a good comparison.
Yeah, no, great shout. And listen, one thing is with I think particularly when you get the ball within central areas, what will help with your transition is the people that are good ball carriers and are sharp and are quick. And you look at someone like an Eze at Palace, and obviously Ethan come on yesterday. Superb, Tom, little cameo appearance. 17, it makes me feel very old. The top, how old I am, so I'm not even going to say it again on live on Albert JTV, but it's fine. But yeah, he's that spark that you like. He just something different. And I had this conversation. I think I was on Dan channel. This is ages ago now, and I think you see this, Tom, particularly with a lot of Arsenal fans. Got to buy the best and get world class. And I always say that's fine doing that. But if you look at a lot of the clubs, all right, cool, you can talk about money spent and the players they bring in. You have to bring in young players. You have to, and if you think that, and particularly if you think they're good enough, and you have to do that. There has to be that balancing act where, yes, you bring in fantastic players into your club to make them better and to get into your first 11s and your sort of core 13, 14 players, but you like seeing Miles Lewis-Skelly, who I thought was excellent the other night against Bolton, by the way. And obviously Ethan Nwaneri. So listen, the more it's going to benefit us. Obviously, we've got players coming back as well. But Tom, yes, we as well as Ethan coming on, we persevere. We get Leandro Trossard go, and I've mentioned this to you before, man. This guy, in terms of finishing ability, I'll put him up there with a great player at our club called Freddie Ljungberg. But how important is he, Tom, man? I know he doesn't start every week, but what's your thoughts on Leandro Trossard, man?
I think that Trossard is a player that is invaluable to teams like Arsenal, a little bit like how Jota can be for Liverpool as well. A player that's worthy of starts, a player that, has got such experience that he kind of breaks the mold of kind of the Arsenal forward line as well. We've got such young figures in that forward line with Havertz and Saka and, Martinelli as well. And now Nwaneri coming through also, that he was kind of this older figure in the forward line that we hadn't necessarily got. Be 30, I think, this season. So it's just a really valuable element to the team that we can use. He gets it. He enjoys playing for Arsenal. He really has improved as well as a player under Arteta. And if you want a chance to be finished, he's probably the one that you look to the most in the team right now to finish them, because he's probably our best finisher also. And he's really good at coming off the bench, as we know. So he can start games and he can make an impact if you don't start him in games too. I know he feels as though, and he certainly carries himself as a player who believes he should be starting every game, but he does both so well that I think he gives you those options to change what you want to do.
Yeah, Tom, well said. Like I said, Leandro the Boss Trossard. And of course, Tom, it was pandemonium in the stadium. I managed to keep all my keys and my wallet in my pocket and phone unbelievably during that moment. But obviously, we get the fourth goal as well. I mean, what that VAR check? I mean, was it that tight? It must have been, because it took so flipping. It wasn't, Tom. No. So I wanted to ask you that. So I don't know why it took so long. It's ridiculous.
No, I don't know why it did.
Yeah, I'm glad Havertz got his goal, man. Listen, for those who still find a way to analyze his performances, Listen, he's invaluable, by the way. Like, even some of the games, the short game. I mean, Tottenham way was superb, absolutely brilliant. Tom, he was brilliant. But Tom, listen, we still got players to come back. We're all looking forward to seeing Mikel Moreno put on an Arsenal shirt. How's that coming in terms of his? Is he back in part training, Tom? Is he close to featuring?
Yeah, partial training at the moment. So he's obviously, because it was a shoulder injury, he can, do some work. He can run. He can stay fit. He can do some ball work. But it's about the contact level. It's about how confident the club are that he can, play contact sport. And it's about kind of how that bone is healing and how the joint is healing. And hopefully we see him, maybe after the international break. I know Arteta said we might see him kind of next week. I think that might come a bit too soon, but after that it's the international break, so we hopefully will see him against Bournemouth, maybe.
God, Tom, we've got another international break. Oh my God, man.
I know.
Tom, before I let you go, I want to talk about one guy before we go, because it'd be totally remiss of me being one of the fellow AF brothers like myself, man. Obviously most people would have seen the stat yesterday of our main man and captain in recent weeks, Mr. Bukayo Saka, the king assist man. Let me see if I can find it. Where's it gone, Tom? So yes, Bukayo Saka is now the first player to assist in each of the opening 6 games of a single Premier League campaign. And you know what, Tom? I don't really pay too much attention to what other people have to say to him in terms of if they want to have the world-class conversation. It's completely up to them. I can't be bothered to engage in that conversation because we see him week in, week out. We see him play for England. He gets better every single time. I mean, his goals and assists already at this early start of the season is phenomenal. People might say, "Oh, it's only Bolton the other night," but he was excellent in the second half. If you're talking about performance, don't look at opposition, look at performance. Excellent, always on the ball. And what I like about him, Tom, especially with Saka, and maybe it's something that maybe Arteta said to him, and maybe it's an own personal development thing, is he's always prepared to go down the wing and not always cut onto his favorite left side, even though he can do it. I think that's something I've seen a lot more in terms of his development. But he's just brilliant, Tom. So yeah, come in, Tom. Praise whatever whatever praise you want to praise on him, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I'm not even sure if that assist record is going to stand because Trossard's goal at the moment is being credited to Ndidi as an own goal. So
yeah,
it's not at the moment, unless, and I know I was told Arsenal are going to appeal it, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, apparently it's going down as an own goal to Ndidi rather than a Trossard goal, meaning that Saka wouldn't get the record, which sucks, obviously. But yeah, I think that there's obviously a lot of focus on Saka just continuing to deliver time after time after time. And, obviously we want to see him score more goals and we want to see him, be more involved in games. But he's just so consistent. What I love about Saka is that he's never he never just sticks to doing what is expected of him, which is a left-footed right winger to always cut inside. He's really developed and harnessed the power of kind of going onto his right foot and really improving his right-footed ability on the ball so that he can take players on and players aren't easily guessing what he's going to do. He can go either way and kill you both ways, which is great, what he can produce and what he can perform with. So Saka, especially when like Cole Palmer gets like 4 goals in one game, which is startling. Like he's very good. Yeah. Like there's no doubt Cole Palmer has been brilliant for Chelsea and he's carrying that side, to where they are at the moment. But I get frustrated the whole desire to compare players. So we don't need to compare them. They can stand on their own 2 feet. They can do their own things. They can produce their own numbers. All that matters is that they deliver. And Saka's delivering still for Arsenal, and Saka's a key part of this team, will continue to be a key part of this team, for the foreseeable future, which is going to be great.
Fantastic, Tom. And big up, Sophie Nicola. I saw your tweet yesterday. Let's create our own narrative, because we know what they would have been when it was 2-2 and the time was going down and the rest of it. Listen, win important games of football, take advantage of any slip-ups that Manchester City do, and hopefully, come May, we'll be having a very positive conversation about many, many things. But people, big up to the people in the chat, you amazing people, because I know this is quite early for some of you, but you'll watch it back or catch up. We was live on Facebook, YouTube, and obviously the X feed. So big up to you watching on there. Tom, you absolute legend and Trojan of a man, you Kentonian man, you. Tom, when can we find you next? Thank you for the exclusive, by the way. I didn't know that's coming, so I appreciate it even more.
All right.
8 a.m. tomorrow, Sean. And will I see you Tuesday?
Yes, I will be at the game on Tuesday for the PSG match, and of course, you can find me at the Goon Talk every morning, 8 a.m. bright and early, producing the show.
Tom, that is wonderful words, and sometimes even I manage to tune in before I go to work, which is quite rare for me. But Tom, it's always a pleasure. Fantastic hat trick appearance on the show. We're going to get another hat trick soon enough when you have your third solo appearance. But you know what, you're a busy man, Tom, so I'll have to let you get on to it. And congratulations for moving home as well.
Thanks, man.
100%. So people, obliterate the likes. All the listeners, you won't be forgotten. Sorry, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, you'll hear my Southeast London dulcet tones on a Sunday morning, and Tom's Kentonian dulcet tones as well. But people, we're going to be over and out for Albert JTV. Have a fantastic Sunday. Up the Arsenal when I can find the outro. There it is. See you soon, people. Take care.